Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ, presented by Canva. So, yes, we have our first look at the college football playoff rankings, where they stand right now. But, of course, as we march toward the end of November, things are going to change. Taking a look at the bracket, we're going to talk about some of these bubble teams. These are the teams that they're in. But a team like Alabama, really, they're flirting on the bubble, taking on LSU this weekend. That could very well be an elimination game for one of those teams. So some of the bubble teams we're looking at: SMU, A&M, again mentioning LSU taking on Alabama, Ole Miss going up against Georgia this weekend. And what about the Buffs? Is there any path for them to make it into the playoff? Let's welcome in McKenzie Brooks, and we have Yellowstone Danny Kanell over here sporting his, I can't talk. I look
Dutton
like
Danny.
I've never even seen Yellowstone. I know that I need to. We're going to go from Montana down to SEC country. Let's talk about Alabama, LSU. McKenzie, you know the numbers here. So right now, Alabama's in, LSU's on the fringe. What could potentially happen in this game, though, to change things?
It really feels like win this game and you're in the driver's seat to control your own destiny by winning out. Now, obviously, other things can happen in other conferences, open up other spots, but to control your own destiny, you would like to win this game and continue winning out. And for LSU, it's definitely win or go home, because they lose that head-to-head to Texas A&M as well. Alabama, basically win or go home. Still a 17% chance to make the playoff, which I know is making Danny, get gray hairs over this, but it is still certainly possible for them. Really interesting situation when you look at the SEC. You could have a ton of two-loss teams, and this is part of it. So I think for Bama, there's a little more optimism, but still, you definitely want to win this game.
Yes, they definitely need to win this game to stay in the race. I don't think they do. I think they lose in Baton Rouge, which of course would eliminate them in their entirety. And then you turn your attention to LSU, where it would look like, okay, this is the team that all of a sudden is in. And I would challenge people to look at some of the games they have played, including their loss to USC, which is not a good loss, especially considering the way USC's season has actually absolutely imploded. So after this game, Alabama, who I don't think is a playoff team, is eliminated, because I think they lose this game. And then LSU, if they're the winner, they have to go to Gainesville. Watch out for the Gators, who just backed Billy Napier to be their coach for the future, as that could be their signature win of the season, with DJ Lagway hopefully getting a little bit healthier. That would be the slip-up game for me, a tricky spot for LSU. I don't think they win out after they win this game, so you'd have both of these teams with 3 losses in the end, meaning neither makes the playoff.
That's so ACC Danny of you. I mean, who do you think? I think, look, the best case scenario is for Bama, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee to keep the losses within the family. And then that's just your top 4 SEC teams. Now, according to odds makers, there likely will be 4 SEC teams in the playoffs, so you'd like it to just, again, keep your losses in the family. You have Bama who beat Georgia, but Georgia who beat Texas, and Texas who beat, and it's like this whole, the 4 bubble. So that's the easiest situation for these voters.
As of right now, there are 4 SEC teams in. There are 4 Big Ten teams in. We're going to keep it in the SEC, though. Let's talk about Ole Miss, though. You mentioned teams with 2 losses. That's where Ole Miss is sitting right now, going up against Georgia, though, this weekend. It's been a weird season for them. They're favored by 2.5 points in this game. But Ole Miss, do they need to win out in order to make it? And it starts with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, absolutely. If they lose this game, their playoff hopes go plummeting down, because, again, you have that top 4 that I was just mentioning that really have kept the losses within the family, and I think that becomes your top 4. So Ole Miss does absolutely need to be winning out, which is going to be very hard against the Georgia Bulldogs, who, coming off a not so Georgia Bulldog-esque game, I think they'll really, really struggle against this team. So I'm all over the Dogs, obviously, but this is absolutely a must-win for them. As far as Georgia, losing this game, I mean, they're still above a coin flip to make the playoff. Now, I actually accidentally found myself in Kenz's nightmare situation yesterday when I was drawing this all out on the whiteboard. If Georgia loses this game and Alabama wins their game, technically after this week, Georgia becomes the 5th best SEC team, which would likely put them out of the playoff. But that's bearing like Texas A&M wins out or something. So my nightmare situation could be occurring if we see a Georgia loss and a Bama win.
Right, because then you'd have to honor that head-to-head matchup, which we saw in Tuscaloosa, which I would agree with you. I'm with you. I loved Ole Miss early in this week, but then the more I started thinking about this matchup, I don't trust Lane Kiffin in this game. I really don't. I just don't. I think Ole Miss has been incredibly up and down, and I don't trust Carson Beck a ton either, but I trust the Georgia.
Neither do I.
Right, exactly. I mean, he's got 9 picks in their most consequential games, and it cost them the game against Bama. Where is his confidence level? But the thing that I do trust is that Georgia defense. We saw when everybody doubted Georgia when they went to Texas. They were coming off a game similar to the game they're coming off against Florida, the Mississippi State game. I was like, what's wrong with Georgia? They came in hot, ready to go. We saw Kirby Smart, so they were just ready to eat. I think he's bringing that mindset and that defense to Oxford. I like Georgia in this game. I also like the under in this one because Ole Miss's defense is pretty pesky.
Yep.
I think they'll provide some issues, and we've seen Carson Beck struggle. So I like the under is probably my favorite play in this game, but I do think you'll see Georgia get the road win.
I was listening to the live version of the Cover 3 podcast earlier today, so I got your take on this. And you also have a new best friend.
I do.
Right?
My man Kirk Cignetti is the best. Yeah.
Head coach of Indiana right now, sitting at 9-0, only one of 5 undefeated teams in FBS going up against Michigan. So I'm actually going to start with Dan on this one because look, they're still kind of like toward the bottom of the standings.
No respect.
Michigan,
0.
No respect. You got Ohio State next. So are you just? They're a lock either way?
Oh, yeah. They're going to win this game. I'm pretty confident in it. They're a two-touchdown favorite. Yeah, so I think barring a massive stumble, but they're a really good football team. That's why I think people are arguing resumes. Where are they? They have dominated every single opponent. I don't think that changes at home in Bloomington. Kirk Cignetti has a mindset that he brought with him from James Madison. So he brings almost all of his staff, brings 14 players from James Madison who are all key contributors, and they're really good football players. They might not be first-round draft picks, but they know what their coach is asking to do of them. And then you got Michigan reeling here. Like, who's playing quarterback for them? Their defense is starting to get injured. There's players, out. Will Johnson missed last week. Their corner, who's All-American safety, they're getting banged up. So I like Indiana. And I still don't know, Amanda, if it gets them the respect they deserve. It should, but this season, the way it's unfolded for Michigan, is this a resume builder? Kind of. But still, people will not respect Indiana until they see them travel to Columbus. And how do they stack up against the Buckeyes?
I think a good start to having that extra bullet point on the resume, like they're getting the Cam Ward, Ashton Genty treatment where it's like it's not enough to win. You have to do it in style. So a smackdown on a Michigan team, I know they're not the most competitive team that we thought they were going to be, but that still shows so much about this Indiana team if they really take care of business. And you saw there, winning this game versus losing this game doesn't necessarily make that much of an impact because you saw the Clemson losses and the Iowa State losses. And when you see losses in the Big Ten or even in the Big 12, they're all fighting for the same at-large bids. So seeing those two teams go down tremendously helped them. So this game is not as crucial as it would have been, I'd say, last week.
This is the game you can check out on CBS Saturday afternoon at 3:30. Danny, as we put up the promo, what's the best part about Coach Kurt over there?
The post interview, right? Like, so he was great on camera. We were done. He stayed and chatted with me for like 5 minutes after, talking about my dad being from Pittsburgh. They had some friends, and then he talked about Coach Bowden. Just couldn't have been nicer.
You guys could get matching denim shirts.
Exactly, we could.
Snaps over there. Make sure to check it out 3:30 Eastern on CBS.